Big night tonight. It kicks off the New Jersey Film Festival. It's at Rutgers, at Voorhees Hall, number 105. That's 71 Hamilton Street. And at 7 p.m. Is going to be a screening of a film that looks absolutely great. Hello, 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 Lee Ranaldo, Electric Trim. It opens the show, and we have right now the director, and that is Fred Rydell. Hi, Fred. How are you?
Hey, how you doing, Alan?
Okay, great. Now, for a lot of people who don't know, who are not rock and roll people or might be rock and roll people, but the and I've been doing some research here, as I told you. I saw, and this guy is so talented. Tell us about Lee Ranaldo, first of all.
Well, Lee Ranaldo is a sort of a multifaceted artist. He works in a lot of meetings, but he's best known as being a kind of post-punk noise guitar inventor. I mean, a lot of people consider him kind of the preeminent figure in post-punk guitar noise, and he started a band with Thurston Moore and Kim Gordon and a series of drummers in the early 80s called Sonic Youth, which really went on to a lot of fame and acclaim as the indie rock band. They ended up kind of discovering Nirvana along the way. He used to open for them, and they just brought to their label, which at the time was Geffen Records.
Yeah, and by the way, the thing about, for those who just kind of went, what? They discovered Nirvana?
Well, I don't know if it's fair to say discovered, but Nirvana was opening for Sonic Youth when they were kind of in their prime I guess it was the early 90s when Nirvana hit, and they were opening on tour for them. Nirvana was looking for a record label at the time. Sonic Youth, Lee's band, was on Geffen Records, of all things, at the time, and they convinced David Geffen to sign Nirvana.
Wow.
And the rest is history. They were no longer opening for Sonic Youth at that point.
Right.
But nonetheless, they were very closely aligned bands and friends, and they performed a lot together and shared a lot of aesthetics. But Nirvana, as you know, became a much more sort of mainstream alt-rock band, and Sonic Youth really stuck with their more experimental, carved-out noise post-punk format. And the bands, diverged. They were different bands, but they had a lot of, I think, soul in common.
And, well, the movie, now talking about Lee a little bit, he has a new album coming out, or I don't know if it's out yet, but and I saw some of the videos on YouTube. They're amazing. And
thanks.
Yeah, it's the guy is a great artist, and tell us about the film. I mean, the film is not just a music video. There's a lot more to it there.
Yeah, the film is actually just a documentary of the process of making what is technically Lee's third, pop album. I mean, since Sonic Youth broke up, the band members have gone off in their different directions, and Lee's been releasing, in addition to a lot of very experimental avant-garde things over the many years, since the band broke up, he's released his now third in the series of, kind of rock and roll albums. And this one's a little unusual, and it was unusual for me as a filmmaker, as I'm a friend of his, and I wasn't really planning the film. He just happened to be working in the studio when I called him, and he said, come on by with a camera, and I ended up spending a year just recording the process, which was sort of unexpected, and the whole way in which he made this album, which was more of kind of like a Pet Shop, almost Sgt. Pepper's approach, there was never really a band in the room. There were just individual artists working very closely with Lee and his producer, and I had never made a film of this nature before, so to me it was a discovery along the way, and they were sort of reinventing the way Lee made albums, so it was kind of a fun, happy, and mutual creative process for all of us.
Wow, it sounds wild. And you went as far as for this. You were in Morocco, you were telling me, off the air?
Yeah, that was kind of inadvertent. I mean, there's a song on the album called Moroccan Mountains. In fact, I think it opens the album. The album came out today, by the way.
Oh, okay, perfect.
It's terrific. It's really one of the most layered, interesting things this artist has ever done and presented. And while I was traveling in Morocco, I had the lyric sheet from the song because I'd been shooting them, working on it for months at this point, and I collected a lot of imagery, and that got put together as the credit sequence of the movie, but it got released in a slightly different form yesterday by Mute Records as the current music video from the album.
Wow.
Which is worth checking out. It's on YouTube. It's called Moroccan Mountains. It doesn't really look like the rest of the film. The film is primarily a black and white, 60s style, behind-the-scenes movie, and the Moroccan Mountains sequence is this very lush, beautiful color, sort of travel and lyrical, documentary in a sense.
Right, and what is from people see music videos. Sometimes they see little clips of people recording songs and albums. What will we learn, and what have you learned that you really never knew in watching an artist like this create?
Well, I've had to first unlearn. When I decided to make the movie, I had this expectation, as the way Lee generally is, and most people work in the studio you get from these kinds of movies. You go in and there's a bunch of musicians playing together.
Right.
And when I went in the first day, I knew that Lee was going to be working with artists like Nels Cline and Steve Shelley and Kid Millions and Alan Lichten. I actually followed Lee and his producer Raul from Lee's loft in Tribeca at breakfast. I showed up there, and we just, walked the streets and took transportation and got out to the studio in New Jersey, turned on the lights, cranked up the board, got everything ready. And I'm thinking, any minute Nels Cline is going to come by, and Steve and Al and all these people. And that never happened. I realized after hours of Lee and his producer Raul Refre from Barcelona working that this was an unusual setting. They were just kind of working on these tracks and experimenting with sounds, and there was no band. Like all these people who I mentioned, Nels, eventually did show up, but they came on different days, and they plugged in a track here and there. And the album was constructed in a very unusual way Lee hadn't done before, and I had never witnessed, so I had to kind of reinvent the film on the fly. And they were really inventing Lee's new sound on the fly over a period of many months of in and out of the studio whenever Raul could come over from Barcelona and spend some time in New York. So it was a learning experience as a filmmaker, but also I think for the musicians and the way that they collaborated and kind of created this new process of making an album for them.
That's amazing, and it's amazing, and the artist is amazing. Now, again, to see this, everybody, it's tonight. The premiere will be at 7 p.m. Rutgers University Voorhees Hall, which is at 71 Hamilton Street, in New Brunswick. It's room 105, and you're probably thinking, yeah, I only wish you're talking to this guy, Fred. He really sounds, fascinating. I wish he'd be there to answer questions. Well, guess what? You're going to be there to answer questions, right?
I'll be there. My co-producer and editor, Jerry Freed, will be there. Yeah, it should be a great night. Come on down.
Yes, very much so. Well, good luck with it. I look forward to fixing my situation so I can actually watch this on TV because, you send me a copy. I appreciate it. And, wow. Great work and great stuff with a great artist. So congratulations and good luck tonight, Fred Rydell.
All right, thank you.
You got it. We are talking about the New Jersey Film Festival, which starts this weekend. And I promise you another rock and roll guest. I've got another rock and roll guest. The movie is called Melody Makers Should Have Been There. And the director, Leslie Ann Coles. Welcome to WCTC. Hi, Leslie Ann.
Hey, how you doing?
Okay. Now, a lot of people may not know. Everybody knows Rolling Stone, but there's also Melody Maker Magazine. Tell us just briefly and how it got started. You think Rolling Stone, it started, I guess, right around, it was named after the group, so probably late 60s or whatever. Well, Melody Maker the magazine goes back a little further.
Yeah, sure it does. It was founded actually as a jazz musician's trade paper in the 1920s, 1926. And then so it was for musicians when they wanted to recruit musicians or they were looking for a new snare drum. And then in the 1960s, 1965, they put the Beatles on the front cover and half the original staff resigned. And they said, that's not music. And then in came the New Guard. And they were all young, rock fans on the front lines of rock and roll.
That's wild. And
and it became the Bible of rock and roll and was the forerunner to Rolling Stone, actually. John Wenner came out to the Monterey Film Festival and covered it. It was the first great big rock festival. And then he, shortly thereafter, started Rolling Stone, a monthly publication.
So that was 50 years ago this summer, the Summer of Love.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. And you were saying, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying in the documentary, the Melody Maker journalists actually talk about Jan, hitting the basement in the archives of Melody Maker and then talking about starting a monthly publication. They didn't realize he was going to go off and start a new magazine. But anyway, it was a forerunner to Rolling Stone is my point.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, tell us about, because we don't have a lot of time, tell us about the movie. This looks so fascinating. And I had mentioned this before that there was just a glitch with my computer. Al Nygren sent me the video, so I haven't seen the movie yet. I'm going to. I can't wait. But tell us about it.
Well, it's really I think Melody Maker really captures the birth of music journalism during the zeitgeist of rock and roll. So it's based on this huge photo archive, an iconic black and white classic rock photo archive that's been largely unseen by the world.
Cool.
I think I went through about 250,000 negatives. And the photographer Barry Wenzel immigrated to Canada, where I met him. I met him in 1996. So it's a massive, massive photo archive. I interviewed Eric Burden of The Animals,
Wow.
Ian Anderson, all of the journalists who worked on the publication, and a lot of really cool cats who work behind the scenes in the music industry. When Melody Maker kind of exploded and was the go-to place. I mean, it launched the careers of a lot of bands. And a lot of band members were recruited from the classified section in the back pages, like Led Zeppelin, the Stones recruited from that.
Really?
Pink Floyd, yeah.
My
there's some
God.
really great stories.
That is amazing. Oh wow. That's, I mean, you know, everybody probably my age right now is thinking, if only I could go back and do it again and do that, you know.
Well, you know, it was a really cool time. I mean, the confidences were kept, and so the musicians trusted the journalists. It wasn't until the mid-'70s with the advent of the paparazzi and sort of punk, and the punks were cool, and they just didn't really care for the establishment. So the relationship between the journalists and the artists changed, but it really captures a unique period when there was unprecedented access, and that's where the great stories come from. I mean, they would go on tour with them, live with them, fly with them, hang out with them for days and weeks. It wasn't like they had them for 5 minutes, you know. And that's how Barry amassed these incredible archive of photographs. I mean, you'd ask to see a picture of Jimi Hendrix, and he'll show you a stack of contact sheets.
Holy cow!
Largely unpublished. Yeah.
That is amazing. Anyway, I wish we'd talk for an hour, but I do have to run. Melody Maker Should Have Been There is the name of the documentary, and this will be screening. You will be there for a Q&A. It'll be Sunday at 7 o'clock. It'll be happening at Rutgers. Once again, it'll be at Voorhees Hall, which is on Hamilton Street, 71 Hamilton Street, room 105. And at 7 o'clock, Leslie Ann will be there, and I can't wait to see this film. So good luck. Now, there's another thing you told me off the air real quick about you coming in you're in Toronto and coming into Jersey. This is your first time in New Jersey, huh?
Yeah, it is. I'm looking forward to it, actually.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. I love your accent.
Hey, forget about it.
Yeah, so I'm going to be coming in. I'll be in, for the day and the evening, and then I'm actually leaving the next day because I'm heading to London for the UK premiere of the film.
Cool.
So I'm looking forward to that too.
Very cool. And by the way, I love Toronto accents too. So.
Yeah.
I love great city.
I tried not to say that.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's like people in Jersey try not to say the word that we can't say on the radio, but we do. You know.
Okay, I want to know, what should I eat in Jersey?
Okay. Let's see.
Where should I go?
All right, go to Edison, and there's a reason to go to Edison Township. Go to Tasty Subs.
Okay.
All right, sub sandwich. They'll explain what a sub sandwich is. And now also in there's two high schools. One's Edison High. The other is J.P. Stevens High School. That's where I went, and it is the alma mater also of this little girl named Nancy who used to play next door. My sister graduated with her brother. Anyway, Nancy Chevelle, who is now Mrs. Paul McCartney.
Oh, wow, cool.
See that? So
all right.
There you go.
There you go.
All right, enjoy
Cool.
Jersey. Have fun. Remember, Tasty Subs. They're great. And if you like tuna fish, then the number 9 sub is amazing. All
okay,
right.
cool. Thank you.
You got it, Leslie Ann. Leslie Ann Coles, good luck with the film. I can't wait to see it. And thank you for joining us. All right, you got it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, you got it. Bye-bye.